All calls are logged and recorded and may be listened to by a member of prison staff. If you do not wish to accept this call, please hang up now.
Hello.
Hi.
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 Hi, Mum. Mum,
Yeah.
how are you doing at the minute?
I'm doing okay.
Louise Lancaster is a 59-year-old mother of 3. She's a maths graduate from Oxford University. Until recently, she was a teacher working with students on the autistic spectrum. She lives in Grantchester, near Cambridge, where she and her ex-husband Tim play an active part in village life. These are her friends and neighbours, Michelle and Claire.
Oh, she's just always thinking of other people. She would never just come to your house empty-handed. She would always offer to bring a pudding. She would always be there if your car broke down and you needed petrol. She's just selfless.
There is an annual Christmas party for the children in the village, and Louise inherited the role of organising the Christmas parties probably about 10 years ago. And she and Tim have done a fantastic job of making these parties something that are unmissable.
We are just no oil. We are demanding. We are demanding. No new oil. No new oil. No new.
Louise is also a climate activist and has been sentenced to prison time as a result of her activism. She's taken part in many protests or actions with Insulate Britain and Just Stop Oil. These two protest groups have frequently been in the news for public disruptions, from throwing paint over works of art to interrupting sporting events and blocking motorways. The aim of these actions is to compel the government to listen to their demands. For Insulate Britain, that all British housing be well insulated, and for Just Stop Oil, that the UK government stop granting new oil, gas and coal licences. Last year, in 2024, her participation in these groups led Louise to one of the longest jail terms for peaceful protest in modern UK history. As he hands down the sentence, the judge, voiced here by an actor, says,
"The plain fact is that each of you has, some time ago, crossed the line from concerned campaigner to fanatic."
My name's Patrick Steele. I'm a journalist and filmmaker. I first met Louise nearly 2 years ago and became intrigued by her story. What would lead someone with such a seemingly comfortable and secure life to give that up by deliberately breaking the law? I want to explore, with her and those around her, the judge's contention that she has crossed the line. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, my name is Louise. I'm a mother, I'm a climate activist and a former teacher. So I first heard and got sort of concerned about climate issues when my ex-husband Tim took a job many years ago, probably about 20 years ago, and we did go out to China to do work on reducing emissions. We went vegan, we insulated the loft, didn't fly much, and those sort of things.
Louise campaigned with friends, like Claire.
She and I were both involved in climate protesting in terms of holding placards up and talking, engaging with the public, but neither of us wanted to break the law.
But for Louise, that changed in the summer of 2019. Here's Michelle.
Well, I was away the summer that I think that she found Extinction Rebellion. And I came back and she had a tattoo and she'd found her voice. And she was prepared to give up her job, prepared to give up everything.
Extinction Rebellion, or XR for short, uses non-violent civil disobedience to compel government to take action on the climate emergency. The tattoo that Michelle refers to is XR's logo, an empty egg timer, denoting that time is running out. Louise, Tim and their 2 eldest children, Tristan and Verity, all have one. Louise's tattoo is on the nape of her neck. It's an intentionally visible spot, a deliberate marker of grit and determination, or as she puts it,
to say to people, look, I'm prepared to own this.
so what did happen that summer?
Probably the singular moment when it took me from being aware of the climate crisis and doing some things to mitigate it in my personal life was that I'd noticed on the news people being arrested for non-violence civil resistance, and mentioned to friends and family that I felt that was the most important thing to focus on. And then the very next day, Tim cycled into Cambridge and noticed that the local Extinction Rebellion groups were blocking central Cambridge. And he actually cycled straight back and he said, look, you know what you were saying? This is our chance to get involved. When I joined the Barriers, it felt like I was in the right place, actively doing something, a step up about the things that I really felt passionate about.
I think Extinction Rebellion made a big difference.
This is Louise's ex-husband, Tim.
Until they started protesting, I didn't really think, well, none of us thought of actually taking direct action or any form of civil disobedience.
So the first action I was arrested for, we were asking Cambridge University to divest from fossil fuels. We were basically putting chalk handprints on some of the college walls as a visual expression of our disgust that they were continuing to invest in fossil fuel. I remember after the arrest, sitting in that van with my handcuffs on, just feeling really proud that I'd actually taken that step to go further. Just by chance, the Daily Mail photographer was right next to me when I took the action, and the images appeared in the Cambridge papers. When I went into work, people had seen it, and I had to go and account for myself. But it was clear that my current path would not match with that job, and I needed to leave it.
Over this time, her family and friends notice a change in her. Here's Michelle.
The old Lou would have apologised for everything, even if it wasn't her fault. And the new Lou would say no to the police.
I think doing these things does change people. She cares very much that you do the right thing. But I don't think she had an inkling of how far she could go when she first started.
I think from the time of my first arrest, that was the time that I suddenly started feeling a lot more personally empowered. It was almost like my life had sort of been leading up to that point.
Louise would take part in over 50 actions over the course of the next year and a half.
There were marches through town centres. There was theatrical actions as well to raise awareness of the climate breakdown issues. And then this moved on to me being involved in Rebellion of One, where I was arrested for sitting in a road in Cambridge on my own with a placard. The placard read, "Protect children, demand climate action."
But by spring 2021, Louise is becoming frustrated.
Nothing is happening fast enough, and the government was not making the right choices. It wasn't meeting its Paris Climate Agreement targets, and there was no sign that that was going to happen.
The Paris Agreement is a climate treaty that makes explicit the aim to limit global surface temperature to 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. There is a scientific consensus that sustained global heating above this level will have catastrophic consequences for life on Earth.
I'd got to the point that I was desperate for something else, and I realised something else was necessary. And that something else had to be more risky, and it had to risk liberty, and that was just the way it was.
In other words, she's prepared to go to jail, which concerns friends like Claire.
It was a sacrifice, and I thought it was a huge sacrifice, but it was a sacrifice she was prepared to make. She tells me that this isn't something that distresses her too much, but I suspect underneath this is a huge hardship.
Louise will go on to take part in actions with Insulate Britain and Just Stop Oil, offshoots of Extinction Rebellion.
She'd been discussing these potential actions with the expectation that virtually everybody involved might be put in prison. She thought about that quite carefully, and then I think she decided if this is the only thing we can do in order to have an effect, then yes, she would do it. And I think from then on, everything else kind of followed.
It's a bright October morning in 2021, around 8:30 a.m. Louise and a handful of activists wearing orange high-vis vests take up positions on the London Road in Essex, an A road that they are targeting for its proximity to the oil depot at Purfleet. A line of cars forms behind them. She and her fellow protesters are trained in de-escalation techniques, anticipating angry encounters with motorists.
That's it, push him up the road!
He's gonna hit you, get out of the way!
Push him up the road!
I'm not joking, my son needs to get to school.
Push him up the road!
Move out the way now!
She's gonna punch her up, punch her up!
My son's 11 and he needs to get to school!
But this time, egged on by onlookers, a frustrated driver drives her car into them. No one is seriously hurt, but the incident becomes totemic for the Sun newspaper, which carries the headline, "Heroic school-run mum who rolled her Range Rover into Insulate Britain eco-mob faces calls to be prosecuted." The word heroic is in apostrophes, but the headline makes pretty clear where the newspaper thinks the reader's sympathies should lie.
Personally, I don't care if I'm vilified, I don't care if they lock me up and throw away the key. My worst fear for my children is that we don't manage to precipitate the global change to reduce carbon emissions, and that the future that we all dread will come to pass. And that is the thing that drives me on every day and with all the actions that I do.
Louise will go on to be arrested more than 20 times. In fact, being arrested is a tactic that both Insulate Britain and Just Stop Oil use to bring attention to their demands. And in September 2022, she is imprisoned for the first time, remanded for 9 days at HMP Peterborough.
Some people are saying there are clear signs that the public at large is fed up with you messing up their
in every
lives.
business, in every government.
Less rich. And the question therefore
these climate crisis protesters.
And as the actions increase in scale, so does the level of media attention. Everyone has an opinion.
Because they're saying if we don't protect the earth, then there will be no earth.
I catch up with her in early December 2022. She's making dinner for her family, just before a court hearing that could see her immediately return to prison.
I've got the smaller knife and fork, usually like that.
Thank you.
She and Tim gather round the table with their sons, Theo and Tristan. Their daughter, Verity, joins over video call while they eat. I notice Louise tries to keep any talk of prison light-hearted.
Okay, dig in. Just in case the call cuts out, I've got this plea hearing in Southwark Crown Court. I haven't been to Southwark Crown Court. That's a first. Tick that one off the I Spy list.
But it's clearly weighing on all their minds.
So I'm arrested for conspiracy to cause a public nuisance, and most of the people that went to the original hearing after that got put on remand, and I didn't. I got a bail not to go into London, but it's possible that I would get a change to my bail.
The thing that I find is, like, you are so dedicated to this, and you're one of the loveliest people I've ever met. I've never met someone quite like you that has the capacity to understand where people are coming from and just be like boundlessly kind. So I hope that in prison people realise that and they are kind to you too.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But not all of Louise's wider family are behind her actions. In early 2023, I go with her to visit her father, Jerry, a retired schoolteacher.
Oh, there you go.
Can you reach your tea from there?
Yeah.
In the living room of his house near Hull, a picture of Louise's graduation has pride of place on the mantelpiece.
I thought you might be a chess prodigy or something like that. are a model, but not a jailbird, I must admit. That wasn't on the cards at all. I certainly didn't want what would be a bit of a family disgrace, somebody going to prison, even for such a good cause. Yes, I would say that the science is on your side, and I do believe that. But I wish you could do it without ruining people's day. I wish more people were on your side, but when I've heard the government say they're not on your side, then that does make me worried. And I wish I could suggest more ways you could do this without upsetting the family. It's not been easy, but I will visit you if necessary.
Thank you.
I keep in touch with Louise over the following months. When we speak, she sounds tired. She's on a suspended sentence and has been ordered by the court to pay over £25,000 in fines and do 200 hours of community service. She also faces 5 more court cases, for which she shows me several bulging files of paperwork. She carries a bag with her wherever she goes, containing books, a change of clothes, flip-flops for the shower, and a list of her friends' and family's addresses in case she's arrested and immediately remanded. Theo is revising for his A-levels, but exams are not his only concern.
She wants to be able to do as much as possible to mean that everyone else is doing okay, because it's something that you can have easy burnout and get very stressed about. But I do frequently have conversations with her where I'm like, you're also in this, and you can also reach a point of burnout.
And Verity, who I catch up with on the street outside one of Louise's court hearings, is also worried for her.
She's now in a strange space where she's gonna keep going, but she's actually really tuck it out. And I've noticed over the last year or so that she's been getting sick in a way that I hadn't really seen her get sick before. She was someone who never really got sick. And then suddenly she's getting repeatedly getting COVID and repeatedly getting ill. So I don't know, I'm kind of worried about her for that.
Louise is jailed again in June, this time for 5 weeks, for blocking a London street. But it isn't stopping traffic that lands her with one of the longest sentences handed down for peaceful protest in modern times. It's an online video call. Back in 2022, over the course of 4 days, 45 protesters attempt to climb up gantries at various points on the M25, bringing traffic to a halt. Louise is not one of them, but, in the words of the judge, voiced here by an actor,
you rented accommodation at one of 2 safe houses in southeast London for those who were to climb the gantries. In addition, you purchased a considerable amount of specialist equipment for the use of the climbers.
In the run-up to this action, Louise discusses these things over a video call, which has been set up to bring in people who are interested in participating.
This is the time to step up and do an action.
This is Roger Hallam, co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, Insulate Britain and Just Stop Oil.
If we do it for 1 day, it's going to be massive, but so what, right? If it goes on for 2 days, it's going to be global news. If it goes to 3-4 days, you're in the ballpark of the biggest disruption in British modern history.
This is taken from a recording of the call that, unknown to Louise, was made by a journalist from The Sun posing as an activist. Nearly 2 years later, in July 2024, that recording becomes a central piece of evidence in a 2.5-week-long trial in which Louise, along with 4 others on the call, is accused of conspiracy to public nuisance, which carries a maximum of 10 years in prison. Louise defends herself, which allows her to speak directly to the jury. She pleads not guilty, on the basis she believes her actions are reasonable in the wider context of the climate crisis. But she and the other defendants are faced with a dilemma, summed up here by The Guardian's climate correspondent Damien Gale.
The judge had ruled that evidence about climate breakdown was not relevant to the case. And so that put them in conflict with the court from the very beginning.
The prosecution focuses on the disruption, calculating that the 4 days of action affected 708,523 vehicles, causing people to miss flights, funerals and hospital appointments. But Louise and her co-defendants are barred from explaining why.
We're effectively being gagged from talking about our motivations. Separating motivation from the action basically renders the action meaningless.
Louise is given 4 years. The Sun's headline reads simply, "Justice served." But her friends and family are shocked by the length of the sentence.
How can we as a society incarcerate someone who is so positive and so sincere in her beliefs about something we're all worried about?
Louise's friend Claire.
I really hope that her going to prison can be shown up as an example of something going wrong in our society.
The judge, in his sentencing remarks, tells the defendants,
"Each of you has some time ago crossed the line from concerned campaigner to fanatic. You have appointed yourselves as the sole arbiters of what should be done about climate change, bound neither by the principles of democracy nor the rule of law. And your fanaticism makes you entirely heedless of the rights of your fellow citizens."
Are you a fanatic?
I don't like the word fanatic. It implies more of a self-interest and doing things without thinking, whereas it's compassionate civil resistance.
Louise is held at HMP Bronzefield, a high-security prison that counts serial killers and sex offenders among its inmates.
At Bronzefield, we were locked in the cells 15 hours a day. And it really does feel like a concrete fortress. And you feel like your feet are sinking into cement when you get inside.
Here's Tim.
Whenever she phoned you, you could hear so much noise all of the time, didn't matter what time of the day. And people screaming and people shouting and people slamming doors. And it was just a very disrupted environment, really.
I had to share my cell with another woman. You've got the toilet in the corner, which doesn't have a seat on. It's a stone toilet. You've got a bunk bed, which you have to sort of negotiate which bunk to use. There is a phone, and there's a travel kettle, a plastic mattress, and a bit of bedding that you can use for that with a thin duvet and a pillow. I have autism, so I need to have time by myself to process things. If I don't have that, I can feel a bit stressed. So at certain points in my prison sentence, I have needed to just sort of be by myself to try and take myself out of a situation just so that I could recharge.
In September 2024, after 2 months in Bronzefield, Louise is moved to HMP Send and then a much less restrictive open prison at HMP East Sutton in February of this year. Then, against all expectation, this happens.
We're just going to take you live to the Court of Appeal, where a verdict is being read out against 16 Just Stop Oil protesters. They're due to find out the result of their appeals against the lengths of their sentences. This is the verdict being read out, so let's just dip in.
We have decided as follows. The sentences imposed in the M25 conspiracy case were quashed, and the following sentences substituted. Roger Hallam, 4 years imprisonment. Daniel Shaw, 3 years imprisonment. Lucia Whitaker de Abro, 30 months imprisonment. Louise Lancaster, 3 years imprisonment. Cressida Gethin, 30 months imprisonment.
Winning the appeal means that Louise's sentence is reduced from 4 to 3 years. This allows for her to be released on licence, reporting to a probation officer. She's going home. I meet her with Tim, Tristan and Theo at the gates of HMP East Sutton, deep in the Kent countryside, on the day of her release at the beginning of April.
Wow. I haven't dissolved.
No, and no one's being called out to...
come tackle you.
No, it's great. It feels marvellous to be out. Really marvellous, yeah. So intense, and now I feel I can breathe.
What are your plans?
I think Tristan might be cooking a stir fry tonight. Yeah. Really looking forward to that. Bit of dark chocolate. Going outside, meeting my dog again. All sorts of really normal things. It's the normal things that you really miss inside that you can't have.
It's now been over 2 years since I first met Louise. Much has changed in both our lives. I've become a father, and she's seen her youngest child become an adult. Despite her legal battles and spells in prison, I've never once heard her express doubt about the course her life has taken. On the contrary, it seems to have strengthened her determination to stand up and speak out. I've seen how proud her family are of her, but also how difficult the past few years have been for all of them. Following her story has led me to reflect on my own response to the climate crisis and the world that I want my family to grow up into. I don't know that I would have followed the path Louise has taken, but it seems to me that whether or not she has crossed the line, as the judge would have it, depends on who is drawing the line and why. I visit her at home in Grantchester a couple of weeks later. She's wearing a tag on her leg and is under strict curfew, but looks relaxed and healthy. Around the time of her release, Just Stop Oil issues a surprising press statement announcing, "We are hanging up the high vis." I'm curious, is that really how it ends?
It's a pause period. At the moment I'm under licence conditions and I will be keeping to them. But Just Stop Oil is really the community of people, and those people are still committed to fighting injustice and challenging climate breakdown. So it's not a stopping for them, and it's not a stopping for me. It's what we need to do.
Hello, it's Lucy Worsley here, and we're back with a brand new series of Lady Swindlers.
Here we are in cell number 1. I'm just shutting us in, Ross. Wow.
Following in the footsteps of some all-new criminals.
Can you take me down to the other end of Baker Street, please?
Certainly, jump in.
Thank you.
Join me and my all-female team of detectives as we revisit the audacious crimes of women trying to make it in a world made for men.
This is a story of working class women trying to get by. This is survival.
Lady Swindlers Season 2 with Lucy Worsley from BBC Radio 4. Listen now on BBC Sounds.